Hi everybody, it's Keren here from tuppencecoloured.co.uk. This is what I have for you today. It is a little home decor piece. Would make a nice little gift for a friend, or just to have around your house as something nice to look at. Very, very easy to do. Stay with me and I'll show you how. Here are the things that I'm going to be using in my project today. I'm going to use the Wood Textures DSP, which I love that paper. I have some scraps of pumpkin pie and a scrap of early espresso. These were left over from earlier projects, so this is a good way of using up those little offcuts of card and paper that you may have. I've got the Daisy Delight stamps and the pumpkin pie ink, and we are punch heavy today. We're going to use quite a few punches. I'm going to use 4 circle punches, 1 1/4 inch, 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch and a 1/2 inch, but the star of the show is this one. I'm going to be using the Daisy punch, and this was so popular with Stampin Up demonstrators that we pretty much sold out of it before the catalogue went live, because we can get hold of things from upcoming catalogues before they go on sale to the rest of you. So it's one of the perks of being a demonstrator, yeah, I've got mine, so this is where I'm going to be mounting my finished flower. It's a little shadow box frame which I bought locally in a branch of the range, I think it was. Not very expensive. I think this size was about £2. Quite easy to get hold of in places that sell things like photo frames, craft and hobby shops. And I don't know whether you can see, but the glass is not the cleanest. So before I finish everything, I will clean that glass with a little spot of alcohol on a paper towel. The way that these things work, if you've never seen one, this kind, the back has got 4 little tabs that pull up, and this is the backing piece, which comes out if you've got all your backing pieces out. So I'm going to be working on that, and I'm going to put this on one side, largely to clean the glass, because yeah, I didn't realise it was that dirty, and I don't know whether you can tell, but I've used this one before. I got bored with the piece that was in it and decided that I was time for a change, and I was going to recycle it. So for that to happen, I'm just going to run a couple of pieces of tear and tape just along here, just for now, so that's ready to mount everything into a bit later on. I'm not going to take the backing off yet, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my piece of DSP, and I'm going to decide which bit I want showing through the glass. I'm just going to bring the outer of the frame back here and decide, and I think I want that center panel. I think I want that in about the center of my finished frame. Just trying to decide how all of that looks. But yeah, I think that's probably about it. And do I want this side or do I want that side? I think I want this side. Okay. So I'm just going to take my frame, and I'm just going to put it pretty much where I want it, and grab a pen or a pencil. I have a pen, and yes, it's going to make a mark, but I'm going to cut that out and you're not going to see it. So is that where I want it? Yeah, that looks about it. You know, measure twice, cut once, as they say. Right, wasn't particularly careful with that, because the actual frame itself will hide a multitude of sins. Now I'm going to cut just inside that line. And again, it's quite hard to see actually, because it's in line with the grain of the wood on the paper. And again, okay. So that sits quite nicely on my backing. So now I can take off the tear and tape. Can't take off the tear and tape. I always say that. I always say I'm going to take off the tear and tape. And what I actually mean is I'm going to take off the backing on the tear and tape. But you know what I meant, didn't you? You forgive me? Thanks. Alright, so that is ready for my finished flower to be mounted onto it. I'm going to do the stamping now. So I've got my stamp mounted up on my clear block, got my silicone mat underneath, got pumpkin pie ink and pumpkin pie card, and I'm just going to ink up my daisy, and I'm going to position it on the card so that those petals are pointing up and down, so they're at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, because that is going to make it so much easier for me to punch this daisy out, which I'm going to be doing in a minute. And I'm giving the ink time to transfer because it's a silicone. I've got the silicone mat underneath because this is a photopolymer stamp. Okay, so yeah, that's okay. That'll do for one. And I need 3 copies of this for my Gerbera. Now, some people say Gerbera, some people say Gerbera. I've always called them Gerberas. But when I looked it up on the internet, just to be sure, I found that either pronunciation is acceptable. So it's a bit like scone and scone and vase and vase and vase, you know. Yeah, I'm going to stick with calling them Gerberas, but if you have always called them Gerberas and that is the pronunciation that you like, you go ahead and do that. Alright, there is no law against it. Right, so there are my 3 daisies stamped out, and now I am going to punch them out. So I'm going to line them up. Now you can see that if I was trying to bring the punch in, and the petals were kind of at that angle, it would be very difficult. So you know, it just takes a little bit of forethought when you're punching, stamping. I've got punching on the brain because I'm actually punching, and I can't think and craft and speak all at the same time. Something's got to go wrong. So hopefully it's not the crafting. Punch. Now I'm making a bit of a meal of this because I'm punching in the air, because I have got a very bouncy table, and every time I punch down on it, the table flexes, and therefore the tripod moves, and therefore the camera moves as well, and people complain that they're getting seasick. So I'm trying to punch this in the air, so I'm making this a little bit difficult for myself. You don't have to. You put this down on the table and punch down on it, and you will find that it is much easier than I am making it look. Okay, so finish with my daisy punch, so I shall put that on one side. Alright, so while I'm still in the world of punching, I'm going to punch my 1 1/4 inch circle, my 1 inch circle, and my 3/4 inch circle out of pumpkin pie. And again, let's move those away so that they don't get in the way. And I have my little 1/2 inch circle, which I'm going to move that out of the way as well. Get a very messy craft table here. It's not good enough. So 1/2 inch circle and early espresso, and so that is all my punching done. I could move on to the next stage without adding any more ink to my punched pieces, but that would not be me. So I have my Stampin' Sponge and pumpkin pie ink, and I'm just working on my blending mat here. which isn't a Stampin' Up product, but they are out there in Craft World, and just adding a little bit of extra colour and dimension to the daisies. Okay, and to the edges of the circle. I'm going to try using this. This is a makeup sponge, which I got at the pound shop. I think there were about 20 of them for £1. Yeah, that's working quite nicely. Not going to worry too much about the spot. I'm going to do both sides. Okay, I am going to do both sides here. And this is one of the advantages of using a blending mat. Don't have to have one, of course. You can use a piece of scrap paper to protect your surface. But the advantage of the blending mat is that you can pick up the ink that you put on it and reuse it. Okay, and this just adds a little bit more depth of colour to the piece, and gives it a little bit of more interest. Okay. See, I learnt my lesson from that piece, not to dab and go straight onto the card because it'll leave a spot. But nobody's going to worry about that. Okay, so there are my pieces ready for the next stage. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my snips and I'm going to cut little snips into the edges of these circles. Now I want them to be quite close together, but not so close together that they actually cut a piece out. So I'm just going to fast forward this bit while I do all 3 of them. Talk to you again in a minute. I'm ready now to start shaping the daisies. So I've got my my squishy mat and my flower tool. I've been asked a lot about this flower tool. I've had it for years. I don't think they make them anymore. If you haven't got one, something like a big embossing tool will work really well. There are flower shaper tools out there, they just don't look like this one. Okay, so again, been having a look at pictures of Gerberas online, and my natural inclination would be to turn the daisy over and to curve the petals so that they curve kind of like that, right? But looking at pictures of Gerberas, actually they don't go like that. They've got kind of a groove down the middle of each petal, so each petal is shaped and actually curves inwards rather than outwards. More like a chrysanthemum really than a daisy. And I'm saying this as though I know what I'm talking about. I know nothing. Alright, I know nothing about gardening or flowers or anything like that. I am completely useless at it. Alright, so just curving up my petals like that, and I'm going to do the other 2 the same way. I'm just using my thumbnail to help me where I didn't crease quite well enough. Okay, so I've got kind of a boot. Kind of, can you see that sort of profile to the petals? So yeah, I'll just go back and do the other 2. Now these pieces are going to be the centre of the Gerbera, and that one. So these 4 pieces are going to be the centre of the Gerbera, and I want these to curl up really well. So I'm in with my tool and I'm really giving this some welly to make this as cup shaped as I possibly can. Okay, right around the edges and spiral in. And yeah, sorry about the wobbly tripod, everybody. Ready now to put all the bits together. So I'm going to start with the large petals, and I'm going to put a spot of my liquid adhesive, and I'm going to layer these up. Now the first layer is going to go not quite halfway between the petals on the bottom layer. I'm going to try and aim for a third of the way round, because my next petal layer is going to fill in the gaps just like that. And yeah, that's quite pretty as it is. So and another good thing about using liquid adhesive, of course, it gives you a little bit of thinking time. Okay, so these layers, I'm going to put my early espresso circle into the middle of this piece. Alright, and yes, it doesn't leave much room around the outside. And then this goes into the middle of this piece, which in turn goes into the middle of this piece. You're probably wondering at this point, why did I bother cupping all of those pieces? Well, you will see it in a little while, because it's a little bit of advanced preparation for something that I'm going to do towards the very end. And last of all, that piece plonks into the middle of that piece. So give that a couple of seconds for the adhesive to set, and then we will start putting everything together. That's had some time for the adhesive to set, and I'm almost ready to put it into the frame here. But before I do, I'm just going to use my fingers, and I'm just going to curl these center pieces back up so that they come over the early espresso piece in the middle. And don't be afraid of them, just, you know, be firm. Now I've just squished in all 3 layers all at once. You could go a layer at a time, might work better for you, but there we go. And now I'm much happier with the appearance of that flower. And again, just going to train this a little bit with my fingers. So here's my backing plate and a blob of my trusty liquid adhesive into the center of it there, and just pop that down, hold it there for a second so that the glue has time to grab. While it's doing that, I'm just going to fiddle with it a little bit more, just play with it a bit more. Okay, and there it is. There is my mounted flower. Now I have cleaned the glass very thoroughly with some Windoline, and that just pops into there. These pieces fold over. Now I'm using my fingers. You might prefer to use pliers, right? So actually it might be better to use pliers, particularly if you have nice nails and you don't want to break them. All right, so I turn that over. There is my finished daisy in a frame. There is my finished Gerbera in a shadow frame. And I hope that you've enjoyed this video. And if you have, then come back and see me again sometime. And to make that easier, why don't you hit that subscribe button below? It really does help me out. But for now, thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you'll come back and see me again soon. Bye bye.